Guys, we're gonna get rolling. So welcome to our weekly Tuesday morning 11 a.m. Leaders Edge Masterminds, where we try to bring you guys a ton of value every week, as we've been doing for the last I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months already. And so on behalf of myself, Deanna, Christian, Chris, Sal, we have a special guest with us today, which is Christina Duncan. Christina Duncan is now with eXp Realty. She used to be with Keller Williams. I don't know your entire history, but without wasting any time, if you can introduce yourself. There's a lot of people here that probably may not know you or your background, but let us know, maybe what you were doing prior to real estate, what got you into real estate, and kind of, where you are today.
Sure. So this is my 22nd year in real estate. I am one of the few people that actually started my career, pretty much it's my first career, my only career. I know a lot of people come into real estate as a second career. And when I started, I will tell you that it was a very rough road. I started at a time when it was not normal to have someone that was below 20 in real estate. Today, you definitely see it a lot more, but 20 years ago, I remember I was in an office where I think the average age was about 55. So it was definitely a rough road to start with. Probably about 5, 6 years ago, when I went over to Keller Williams, I would definitely say the vibe started to change. It was definitely a little different. And I think the market and kind of how real estate has evolved in the past 20 years has really brought in different people versus how it was when I started. But I've been with a lot of, traditional companies, went over most recently from eXp from Keller Williams, which kind of eXp is obviously a hybrid of what Keller Williams offers with the education and the training and everything. And I've been very excited here since I've been here the last few months.
Awesome. How was that transition? You were with Keller Williams for how long?
I was with Keller Williams for about 4 years.
Okay.
So pretty much most of my career at Remax, and then looking to grow my business, I decided that I really wanted to get to the next level. And in order to do that, I went to Keller Williams. What brought me over to eXp was really just, again, the growth potential to really get to a whole other level that 5 years ago, I would have never even imagined.
Yeah, no, definitely. Tell us about your team. How is your team structured? And, you were obviously a solo agent, for a while. And then, how was that progression where you started to grow that team? And I guess, who or what was your kind of first hire? And then, tell us about maybe the growth of your team.
Sure, absolutely. So I actually started a team pretty much in the beginning of my career. My career started back in 2000. I actually was working with some other agents myself. I worked independent the first year, then decided to shadow someone. So the first 3 years of my career was kind of a learning process, as I'm sure it is for many people. But then what happened is when I had my daughter, I started to realize that my time is now split. I mean, prior to my family, it was real estate. Everything was real estate. I mean, I'm sure as everyone knows, you can kind of consume in the business very easily. And, your whole time can be spent there. When you don't have a family, it's very easy to do that. But once my daughter came along, I needed to make some decisions. And it was very hard to me because I'm a very hard worker, very dedicated to my clients. And I wanted to make sure that I was able to satisfy my clients' needs, but also be there for my family. So in 2003, that's when I kind of started to explore the decision of expanding and having a team. At that time, though, it was a very foreign concept. It was not something that you would see. at that time, that is part of why I did go to RE/MAX, because in our area, in Somerset County, Central Jersey, there wasn't really a lot of teams. There was only one that I knew of, and that's the person I approached. And based on that, I then joined their office and started to learn how to build a team. Where I was, which was a traditional brokerage, what happened is they gave me someone to mentor, which, as we all know, is not how you build a team. So I had people to mentor. That didn't really work out too well, especially considering that was more work. And then I had a child to raise at that point. So when I transitioned a year later to RE/MAX, I was beginning to learn the different concepts of how to manage, because management is very different than being a sales agent. That broker introduced me to DISC, which I still use today in my business, which is critical.
So Christina, real quick, so some people don't know what that is, and many refer to it as a DISC test. So
Yes.
it's funny, I always hear it as DISC. I've never heard somebody say the DISC, but tell everyone here, what that is and how you use it to, I guess, select team members, right? Or things like that.
I mean, for everything, pretty much. So DISC or DISC is basically a personality assessment. And once I've learned it, once I was introduced to it and really learned it and studied it over the years, I use it in all aspects of my life, both in business and in personal. It really helps you. It teaches you how to interact with people. So a long story short, I'm not going to go into a ton of detail about it, but just in case you're not familiar with it, there's 4 quadrants. And if you Google it, there'll be a ton of information. And pretty much all of us have qualities that fall into those 4 quadrants. However, we have different dominant qualities. So some people may be more kind of towards the D style, which is leadership, have big vision, big goals. Then you have those that are kind of more like the S style, which is a little bit more of a softer approach. Those are your great admins. Those are people that are going to be loyal to you, a little bit more of a softer approach. You'll have your I's, which are really our sales agents. I's are people that want to interact with people, that are very much social. You have your C's that are analytical, very, very good managers, very detail oriented, your accountants of the world. So that's a quick synopsis, but we have used this quadrant in terms of hiring people to see who's a good fit in what position. If someone is looking to join a team, putting them where they're going to excel, where their strengths are, is how you're going to build a well-performing team. If you put someone in a position where they're not comfortable and their skill set is not the best, they're not going to perform. And the reality is they're going to leave usually pretty quickly. The other thing too is understanding yourself as a person, how you are as a manager. That's been a rocky road for me over the years, still probably a little rocky. I fall into the D category, which is about 2% of people. So one of the challenges that I deal with as an agent, as a manager, is understanding if I fall into 2% and my personality falls into 2% of everybody else, I have to figure out how to deal with 98% of people to be successful. So, sometimes toning down my D a little bit is really, really important to learn how to work with others, to learn how to work with clients, to learn how to work with my administrative staff. It's extremely important for me to sometimes step back, especially as agents. We're constantly on the go, moving at 110 miles an hour. If you think about how an administrator is, they're not moving at that speed. So it's really important, if you're building a team, to understand who your personnel is, and you as the manager, as the owner of your business, has to learn how to slow it down and learn how to properly deal with them. So also teaching your staff DISC is important too, because if they understand, they have a different appreciation. If you're kind of, you kind of joke around sometimes and say, oh, she's in her D right now. It's a lot easier to joke around versus them getting offended. So that's something I've learned over the years. And I would say that's probably one of the most valuable things I really learned when I was at RE/MAX about 15 years ago, to start to build my team. It's also something I struggled with. So I would definitely say, I'm sure a lot of people are in a very similar situation, but I would say the more you can learn about yourself and your staff, and the more you can kind of create that relationship, the better it is. Now,
was there something else that like when you say you struggled with? Were there other things that you struggled with when it came down to growing your team, or what were some of the mistakes that you can think about, that you made or went through, back then, that maybe that you're not doing now, or that you learned from back then? Because I'm sure that people, that are listening right now, that are either thinking of starting a team, whether it's them plus one person, or maybe they have a team of 10 people, I'm sure they can, learn from some of that, or relate to some of the mistakes that you've made in the past.
absolutely. I made a ton.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of learning. I mean, I would say there was a period of time, I would say probably about 15 years ago, where I was even questioning, do I want to be a team leader? Do I want to be in management? It's so complicated. It's so hard. And even to this day, I mean, in this job market, it's actually very hard to find good staff, very, very hard. But what it is, again, is just learning, the biggest thing, growth is not easy. Learning to grow and to get to the next level, it's painful. It's out of your comfort zone. So if you're feeling pain and you're feeling uncomfortable, you're on the right path. But it's not easy. You have to understand what your goals are and the path to get there. And when you're literally stepping outside of your comfort zone, that is what is the most difficult thing. As sales agents, if you're a good sales agent and you're a top producer and you're bringing in all this business, it's very hard to learn to delegate. You always want to do it yourself because you could do it better yourself. Not really, but you think you can. And then also to really trust someone else with your business. Those were probably the two biggest challenges, both of which today I have definitely worked through, but you're still going to always have challenges no matter where you are in your business. But if you can learn to trust someone else and truly delegate the work, that's when you're going to see tremendous growth and get to the next level. So that would be my biggest recommendation. Of course, you have to have the right people to do that, but those are really the two biggest things when someone goes from a solo agent to a team. Getting through those hurdles are the biggest things.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So essentially, I was doing really, really well at Remax. And then what happens is I hit a plateau for about 4 years where I couldn't go further. I was in a really comfortable situation. Didn't want to change. I had young kids at the time. I wanted to be comfortable. I wanted everything to be status quo. And then I started to realize, even though I thought I wanted everything to be status quo, I really didn't want that, because that's not really my personality. My personality is a growth personality. I need to get to the next level. Even if I achieve something, I still need to get to the next level. That's just my personality. And I started to get very bored and realized that this is not where I wanted to be. That's how I found Keller Williams. And the biggest thing that was missing out of my career to get me to the next level was vision. All the companies I was with prior to going to Keller Williams did not have a big vision. I was the top producer at Remax doing less than 20 million. It was not really, there was nothing to achieve. There was nothing to go to. There was nobody to look up to. So when I went over to Keller Williams, I didn't leave because I was unhappy. I didn't leave because I didn't like Remax. I left because it was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. It was allowing me to grow my business and to get to a level that, I could never even think about hitting when I was, at Remax. So I went over to Keller Williams. I was no longer the top producer. I had people that I could learn from, people that had paths to success that I've never seen before. My first year at Keller Williams, I went over in April and I was able to achieve platinum, which was something that I was striving for 4 years and could never achieve. I kept missing it by 500,000 or $1 million or just some little amount of dollars. But finally I went over and I did 22 million my first year at Keller Williams, where I was hovering between 16 to 19 million for 4 years at Remax. The one thing that I learned and I will take away for the rest of my career at Keller Williams was vision. There was never a vision at Remax, at the companies that I was with the brokers that I was with, to really achieve and to overachieve and to continuing to climb up. It was kind of like, it's all good. Everything's good. We're all kind of status quo. Keller Williams had this endless vision. And that was something that I still take with me today, that there is no cap. There is no, end in sight, that the sky is the limit.
It's basically who you surround yourself with, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah, I say that all the time, and we talk about it on the Zoom all the time. Surrounding yourself with the right people, even me or Walsh or Sal or whoever else is on the Zoom, Melissa, Brian. Like if you surround yourself with people that are successful, you're going to become successful. And even though you're successful doing 15 to 19 million every year, that's unbelievable, right? But listen, why is that good enough? It's not. You want to get to 20, 30, 40, whatever, and when I first came over here, and I joined, me and Chris became partners, I was doing that 20, 25 million. Chris was doing 30, 35 million. And I was always like, I'm going to get to Chris. I'm going to get to Chris. And it's that motivation thing, it's not a contest, but we would bounce ideas off each other. And our whole company does that, right? That's the good thing about where we are today and why we have these Zooms, because everybody's willing to help everybody. And I think, like you just said, it's just motivation. Sometimes you need that little kick in the ass to get you like, all right, how is Christian doing 50 million? How is Walsh doing 50 million? How are these guys doing what they're doing? Pick our brains, right? And we learn from everybody on here, so that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sharing, and that was one of the biggest things too, is that I remember coming from offices where you'd walk in the room and people are like hiding things. I love the environment that we're in, where you can literally have a Zoom, share all the information. I've met with agents one-on-one to go through listing presentations, different ideas, what works, what doesn't work. It's such an amazing environment. When you can share, everyone succeeds.
Yeah.
Hey, Christina, so I have a question. So you were doing really well at Remax. You said about 18, 20 million. Then you went to Keller Williams and that boosted your production.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a different environment, surroundings. You mentioned, you were able to see a different type of vision. So you were doing super well, right, with Keller Williams. So now, if you're doing so well and everything's going so great, why pick up your entire team and take all your people to EXP? Like, what was the reason you made that switch?
Sure. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons. So one of the things is the way companies are set up, they're all set up differently. Remax was very independent. I was kind of able to do my own thing, which was nice. Keller Williams was a little bit more corporate and had a little bit more restrictions. So what I started to learn as time went on is that when going into like an EXP setup, you have the best of both worlds. You have that independence to do things the way that you would like, but you still have that sharing educational environment. So for me, that was the best of both worlds, kind of combining Remax and Keller Williams equals EXP as far as I'm concerned. Where at Keller Williams, I felt that there was a little bit too much with kind of handcuffs and restrictions and corporate rules and regs that was kind of starting to hold me back a little bit. So going to an environment where they kind of let you free and they're letting you really expand was something that I was looking forward to. Plus, on top of that, while I wasn't at the top, I was in the top few people in my office. It was a whole different world at EXP. When I see people doing, 100 million, 200 million, doing business in both states, like things that I've never experienced before. So I felt that EXP was just another level that Keller Williams just couldn't provide.
Yeah, the biggest thing that and again, this might be the first time, and Christian and Chris, Sal, you guys might even agree, this might be the first time probably in, I don't even know, 6 months that we're actually, even talking about EXP, because we actually never talk, company specifics even on these Zooms. But I'm going to just leave it with one thing. What I found after, we switched last year, I think collectively we came over with like 200 and I don't know, 60 or 80 people over to EXP last year. In fact, it's almost a year right now. But the biggest thing that I found with everyone is the openness and the collaboration, is that everybody wants you to succeed and do better than they're doing. Nobody, like you said, nobody hides anything. Everybody's very open with everything, and they're willing to share and give you anything that's working for them, they want to give to you. And we really never experienced that before, with previous companies that we were with. But so that's definitely one thing that, that's been huge for us. So Christina, you have a lot going on between the team. By the way, how many are on your team?
Right now we have, in terms of agents, gosh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 agents, and administrative staff. I'd say between part-time, full-time, we probably have about 6 or 7 administrators. So we're a lot of part-time administrators because we do offer coverage 7 days a week. But pretty much we have, I'd say, probably about close to 15 people on the team total.
Okay. That's good. You know what? We do have a couple of quick questions in the chat that I just want to, just so we don't lose it as we move along.
Sure.
So somebody asked about what criteria do you use, I guess, in hiring, or if somebody wants to join your team, what does that criteria look like?
Well, it depends on if they're coming in as an agent or an administrator.
We'll go with agent.
Sure. As an agent, I don't have a written out criteria. Most of it at this point, we do, unlike some teams, we do take part-time agents, but we also have a long talk with anybody we take on part-time that they don't get special exceptions. They have to still meet the same requirements as our full-time agents. So pretty much we do it on an individual basis. It's not like we have a list, and that might be something we may develop over time. But at this moment, we don't have a list of you have to meet this mold or we don't take you. We do it kind of on an individual basis. If someone's willing to work hard, the biggest thing, because we have run into problems, is not everybody's meant to be a team member. So there are some people that are better off solo or independent. I need people that are going to be team players, follow our mold, because we do have a good system set up. But if I have someone who's going to be resistant to following the mold, that's not someone we would want on the team.
I used to ask people, do you want to make money or do you want to be famous?
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good way to go about it. Absolutely.
So,
because if someone wants to establish their own business, I'm happy to mentor them and help them do that. But that's different than being a team member.
Yeah, absolutely. We have another question here from Rob Sago. Any tips on creating that time for work versus time for family when your kids were really young?
Yes and no. I've gotten better with it as time goes on. Like today, I'd say one of the biggest things I will say, my transition to Keller Williams has taught me. When I went over to Keller Williams, one of the biggest lessons I learned was work-life balance. They were huge on that. And that was a big transition for me, because at Remax, it was work. It's only when I transitioned over to Keller Williams that I started that work-life balance. So I would say when my kids were young, I was pretty horrible at it. But today I'm much better. And right now what I do is I manage through calendars. If I don't have a calendar, if I book anything, it has to be on my calendar. Like my daughter's prom's coming up this week. That's on my calendar. Her nail appointment, her hair appointment, all of it's on my calendar. Because if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist, whether it be personal or business. But my personal appointments with my kids are my business. It's all in one. That is an appointment. So if I have a client that says, hey, are you available Friday night? My answer is, I have an appointment. Not I'm out with my kids, because, that's not going to go over well with clients.
They don't care about you or what your issues or problems are. They want to see the house.
Absolutely.
And even if you tell them that, hey, you know what, I can't do Friday at 5. We're doing pictures for my daughter's prom. I don't really care. I want to see the house. I'm going to call somebody else. Mm-hmm. But when you tell them that you're already booked, with an appointment, I can show it to you tomorrow morning. Is that okay? Then they're like, sure.
Absolutely. And that's what you have to do. The only way in this business to really balance is to make your family a priority and to make it an appointment. And that's how I speak to clients about things. They don't need to know what's in that appointment. Oh, I have another appointment. Can we go at this time? And that's how I've been handling things, I'd say the last 3 to 4 years. And it's been so much better. I actually have time on the weekends that I spend with my kids and family, which is something I never did 10 years ago.
That's great. We actually have another question, I think, in here. What does your team standards look like in order for someone to remain on your team?
Right. Yes. So minimum production. Again, I can always give an exception. Like we have rules in place. I always rather do an exception to a rule versus, kind of creating rules. So these are our rules. I will say, made some exceptions for people, but generally speaking, they have to meet the minimum production. They have to be in our meetings. So we have a weekly meeting on Tuesdays for about 30 minutes just to kind of catch everybody up. Those are mandatory. And pretty much, between production and that Tuesday meeting, those are really the minimum requirements. We don't have a ton of other things. I mean, there are things individually they have to do, like making sure they're caught up in terms of education, doing Zooms, but there's nothing besides those two things that are really kind of written in stone.
Okay. Chris, Sal, Christian, Deanna, you guys
I have
got
a
any
question.
questions? Yeah, Deanna, go.
I have a question. I know, Christina, that you are a rock star at KW with recruiting agents in, not necessarily as a member of your team, but recruiting them in and then leveraging mentorship, and continue to do that with EXP. And I would just love to know what some of your strategies are. Like, how do you draw in the people to have those conversations from the start? Because you're like a rock star at that.
So to be very honest with you, I don't have a recruiting plan. It's kind of over the years come naturally. It just kind of have happened. But one of the things I'd say, the main thing is sharing. And that is something I did learn at KW and I've continued at EXP. I will share with everybody and anybody what we do, how we do it, to help them grow. And that's really what it comes down to. I'm not going to hold things back. If someone has a question, I'm happy to take time with them. There's a number of agents that I literally will spend time either on the phone or through Zoom and explain things in terms of how to do it. It's actually quite shocking to me. And these are agents obviously from other companies. I'll do a transaction with someone and they will say, oh, I'm stuck on this, or, oh, I didn't know that, or whatever it may be. And then that leads to a conversation. So a lot of times I'll help. I mean, there's so many new agents that I've helped over the years that I've then established relationships with that have then brought them over either to Keller Williams or EXP, or some haven't, some are staying at, their company, but we've stayed in touch. But it's just establishing relationships and sharing information, I would say, is really the way I go about it. It's not, I know it's probably not the best recruiting strategy, but it's just kind of me. It's what I do, and it's worked.
That's awesome. It's authentic, which is what I appreciate more than anything. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
So Christina, so there's a lot of agents on this Zoom that are not on teams, don't start teams, whatever, but they're individual agents. So obviously you, as a team leader, and you have a team, how are you helping out your agents in this crazy real estate market? Like, what advice are you giving them? Agents, doesn't matter the business they're doing, everybody's struggling in some sort of fashion, right? With buyers, sellers, whatever. So what are you doing to keep your agents motivated and keep them on track? Because it's very hard. If you're not doing business, it's very hard to keep them going. So what are you doing? What are you talking to them about?
Well, I will say my agents are doing business. So we're getting deals accepted. I mean, not every deal. I mean, obviously we all know the type of market we're in right now. But we talk, because of the volume that we're doing, and this is where the sharing comes in, that's very important, is understanding. I'm a big, so my personality is the DC, which I'm a little analytical on one end. And because of that, I have a tendency to analyze the market often. Whenever I personally am presenting an offer, I'm going to ask that agent, that listing agent, a zillion questions until I'll push until they get mad at me, pretty much, because you have to in this market. And that's one of the biggest things that I've taught my agents as well, not only on my team, but in the office, is you've got to push. You can't be a rollover. You can't just be like, okay, no problem. I'm one of 17 offers and I'm just gonna, go away sad-eyed and just move on to the next one. How do you move on? What do you tell your client? How do you retain your client? So again, just teaching them things like, this is where my strong D comes in, where I'm going to be pushy. I'm going to find out more information, because the more I find out, the more I'm helping my client. And also you're helping yourself, because you're going to get that client under contract. Why do all this work and write 10 contracts if you're not going to get them accepted? I'm very honest with people. if you're not willing to pay 10 to 15% over asking price, you're wasting your own time. And there's some clients that we have to battle back and forth with. But at the end of the day, are they going to ever buy a house right now? They're not. So why waste your time with someone that's going to spin your wheels? Why not pick up a buyer that is willing to do that? So those are things that, we talk about. We talk about the reality of the market. And I would say maybe I'm a little more pushy than others, but they're getting deals accepted. They're finding out why their deal wasn't accepted. They're able to then give feedback to their buyer as to what they need to do to get the next one accepted. So it's really just kind of, I know it's different. I mean, in 5 years ago, 3 years ago, I would have never done that. But given the market we're in today, you have to adjust to where you are today. You have to.
Yep.
No,
Cool.
100%. Chris, you were going to say something?
No. I think it's, listen, I think, like I said, just in general, it's a very frustrating market for a lot of people. People are doing business. I mean, but it's just, like I said, very frustrating. It's hard, when you're taking out clients, you're doing all you can. And, sometimes it's not reciprocated either, right? That's why keeping relationships with other agents that are not, so they don't have to be with your firm or whatever, just keeping that good relationship and always doing the right thing, because it's times like this where they're going to say, you know what, I've worked with Christina before. She's great. I'd rather deal with her than this agent that kind of screwed me on another deal or that I just don't know, right?
Absolutely.
So you got to always be professional, and you got to always, like I said, keep your head up and just keep moving forward. Things are going to change, I think, soon. So that's good.
I think they're changing already. I mean, I think we're definitely seeing a little bit of a shift that's already starting to happen right now. But we have a couple more questions happening here in the chat. So Brian asks, you were just talking about, reaching out to the listing agents. Now, are you coaching your agent? Well, you think you mentioned that you're coaching your agents, how to do that, or are you sometimes calling the listing agents on your team members' behalf?
No,
Okay.
I will not, because you don't learn that way. So, I mean, unless the only time I will personally step in is if it's really extreme. Like if there's this situation I need to step in, then I will. But I would say that's very, very, very rare. Most of the time, because here's the thing, my goal is, I believe in getting people to a point where they can flourish, like give somebody wings and they can fly. If I'm sitting here doing it for them, they're never going to fly. So if they want to be successful, they have to be able to do this on their own.
Good answer. Actually, there's two other questions that are very similar. Earlier, you were talking about, minimum production and things like that. I guess it will be different for everybody, but maybe for you, like, what would you consider, like, what do you consider to be minimum production? Like, what does somebody actually have to do to be on your team?
Sure. I mean, what we have in writing, and again, I can deviate for that in specific situations, but what we have in writing is 2 sales per month. We require a buyer's agent to close 2 sales per month. Now, someone who's new, we will give them some time to get to that level of production. But we have, when we bring somebody on, we're doing 30, 60, 90. We're meeting with them. I mean, we have a whole system set up to have them be successful and produce. But basically, there are some people that don't, 6 months is kind of the time frame. There are people that sometimes are 8 months out or a year, like they might need time. But if we see progression to the goal, I'm not going to kick somebody off that, they only are at 1 sale per month, but they're still doing what they need to do, especially in this market. So that's why
especially if they're attending.
Yes.
What you're requiring of them, as long as they're, meeting or exceeding your expectations, right? They're attending your trainings, your meetings, they're doing the work. Obviously, if you're seeing that, right, then you're not going to just obviously, kick them off if they're only doing 1 month. Yeah.
But we have had situations where it goes 6 months, it goes a year, and they're not where they need to be, and then we need to have a conversation. And again, I don't say, like, I hate to use the words of like kick somebody off. Like, that's definitely not how we handle it. It's a conversation. It's a fit conversation. Is this what you expected? Is this the right fit for you? How do you feel? Because 9 times out of 10, to be honest, I mean, people know what they signed up for. They know what they're supposed to be doing. If they're not doing it, they know just as well as I do. So it's not a shocking conversation necessarily. It's more or less a conversation is, where are you struggling? Because the other thing too is we have conversations over the past 6 months or a year. Where are you struggling? We're looking at stats. We're making calls with them. We're going on appointments with them. So we're usually able to pick up on where the deficiency is and we're trying to fix it. I've never been in a position where I needed to actually like kick somebody off the team. It's more a mutual decision.
Okay. Another question for you. What are you doing as a team as far as, you know, any kind of, you know, events? Are you hosting things, you know, to make yourself, you know, stand out in the community? Like, what kind of things are you guys doing?
Absolutely. So one of the things I built my business on, so I'm not the type of person that is going to, you know, call for sale by owners or call expireds or cold call. Like, that's not my style. I teach it to agents. I can do it if I want to, but again, I believe that every person has to work where your strengths are. My strengths are relationships. My strengths are talking to people and, you know, more of an indirect approach, and it works for me. So therefore we do events. We are actually having the Somerset Patriots event for our clients coming up next month. We've hosted that for probably about 10 or 11 years, and it's very successful. And very much in demand. We sell out. We pretty much sent an email out and sold out the same day. So that's something that we've been doing for a number of years. We also do Breakfast with Santa. Again, something we've been doing for over 10 years now. We partner with a local, like, it's a rental community. It's really nice. We have Santa come, we have some breakfast. We open that up to the community, not only just our past clients. In the past, we've done other things with our office, but it requires more manpower. Like, we did a really wonderful event probably about 5 or 6 years ago for Children's Miracle Network. We raised over $10,000 through like it's kind of like a tricky tray. I forget what we called it. We called it something that sounded a little better, but it was an amazing event. But that required a lot of work and a lot of manpower. And in the last few years, I just haven't had that manpower to do that type of event again. But we've done a lot over the years. We've brainstormed about doing some additional things. We just haven't done it yet, especially with COVID. A lot of stuff has kind of gotten shut down. So this year we went back to the two things that we've had for years, which is the Patriots and the Breakfast with Santa. We'll continue to build, but that's where we are today.
That's awesome. Brian,
I think Ryan's got a question.
Yeah, Brian, what do you got?
Hey, just a quick question on an event. I have a slight strategic advantage. I live directly across the street from a school. So I was thinking what I would do is our town doesn't have busing. So school pickup is a little bit of mayhem, and it's right outside of my house. So what I was thinking about doing was every now and then, especially during these nice warmer months, is pay for an ice cream truck to park in my driveway. Thoughts, feelings on that idea?
Sounds a little creepy.
Everyone loves ice.
I have a question. When?
Well, no, I mean, listen, so the only problem with
everybody knows who I am. I have a kid that's in kindergarten, so everybody knows.
Ryan, I was just kidding.
No,
okay.
but I think, listen, I think it's a good thought, but I think it's something you would have to work out with the school. Obviously, you know, it's a liability when kids are crossing the street, but if you were able to work out something with the school where maybe they let the kids out 20 minutes early and you had free ice cream for the kids or something like that, and had the truck actually in the parking lot or throughout the day where kids can go out and get ice cream, definitely, you know what I mean? But
I agree.
doing it at pickup and stuff like that. But I would talk to the school and say, listen, I want to have my truck here on this day, and every period somebody goes outside when they're coming out for recess and they get free ice cream or whatever, and do something like that, you know, and see what.
You know, I would. I just want to jump in. I would make sure that whatever you're giving out is branded to you. Don't just give out the ice cream. Make sure there's a branded like napkin or something that they have that they're getting from you, because just giving out the ice cream, you're like, oh, nice guy, he did, you know, but if you have something branded.
Okay.
Yep.
Just along those lines too, I'll just jump in and say one thing that our team is doing right now is we went out and purchased en masse some grocery bags, because this week the state of New Jersey is no longer going to be giving out any retail store in New Jersey can't give out shopping bags that aren't reusable. So to Chris's point, that would be a great, if, if people are sitting there cursing out the traffic at the school, you can just walk up and down the sidewalk and hand a grocery bag to everybody
That's a
in
great idea.
in their car. But pretty low dollar investment, but with a high impact. And also, we're encouraging it. We don't have the school across the street, but for agents on our team that are interested in doing some door knocking and sort of getting back to grassroots, it's a great way to segue to the services you can offer by just saying, hey, let me help you out with your shopping needs now that you're not going to get those bags from Target and Wawa anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was talking to my wife about that, because every time I go in there into the supermarket, my wife's got a trunk full of bags and I never bring them. I just go in and I come home with a new bag, and she's like, you've got to be kidding me. You're spending 20 cents on these bags. I'm like, seriously, come on, but now that they're getting rid of them, I said to her the other night, I'm like, you know what? It'd be really cool just to get a bunch of bags with my logo on it. And then when my kids come home for the summer from college, I'm just going to have them stand in front of like 3 different supermarkets and just hand out my bags and say, here you go. Everybody will take them, right? I mean, why wouldn't they? And then my name will be on them. And then you just, go from there.
Absolutely.
You know what? That right there is a perfect idea. What are the bags? Either you stand outside, ask people who are walking in, you hand them the bag. Have a T-shirt or a hat with your logo or your team name on it, and just give them out. You could probably give out like 500 bags, in one day or over the weekend. Then now you got the whole store, walking around with your bags.
Yep.
Make them a nice color. And Ryan, all kidding aside, I like the idea with the ice cream truck, but I like it better if it's parked in front of the school, not in your driveway. So, but I do like the idea of the ice cream truck. That's a really good idea. Deanna, you want to ask Christina that question that you posted about coaching?
Oh, yes, Christina, I would love to just know, for you, taking on so many leadership roles with your team, with mentorship, with all that you've done in your career, do you seek out personal coaching or mentorship for yourself? And what does that look like? Is it more production based or personal leadership skills based? I would love to know.
Absolutely. I do have, she's a life coach, not production based, because my goals, while I do want to increase production and other things, I feel that your coach should really be focused on where you struggle the most and can help you with that. And where I struggle the most is, I would say, more on the management end, the personality end. And that is where I really try to focus and grow. So my particular coach helps me in the hiring process, helps me working through any type of issues with my team members. Most of it's personality conflict, how I need to adjust in terms of how to speak to people, how to approach things. And because that's my weak point, I want to try to get stronger. When it comes to production and other things, while I know a lot of people do have coaches there, for myself, that's not something I really have found a need for over the years. I like to go into more kind of resources like this, where you go into like Zooms, or even before joining EXP or any of the other companies, probably 10, 15 years ago, I joined a lot of Facebook groups where there's other agents. So I'll pull a lot of my ideas from there. Plus, as a personality, I'm very motivated. The last thing I need is someone to motivate me. I don't do well with, like, I've had people talk to me about affirmations and all that, and I use that for my team because it works for them, but you have to know what works for you. And for me, I don't need any of that. All I need is stats, numbers. That pushes me enough. If you're telling me we're not meeting our goals, then everything goes aside and I'm going to hit the ground running and do what needs to get done. So the next time we speak, we're exceeding goals, because that's how I work.
Christina, so speaking of stats, we had a question also regarding that from Karen. How are you tracking, everyone's production, ROI, on leads and things like that, what you're providing to your team? How do you, because you seem to be, very, obviously not deep, but you're also analytical, right? So, which means that you're probably about numbers and spreadsheets and, return on investment, things like that. So what are you using, for yourself as far as to be able to track all that?
Yep. So we are actually, long story short, anybody that has had Top Producer in the past knows that there was a total system failure at the end of last year, which that has been our CRM for the past 20 years. So we have actually been going through a transition. In addition to coming to EXP, we've been going through a transition with our back end, with CRM and things like that. So after talking to Joe Oz, we actually just picked up Follow Up Boss, which we're still learning. So what we've been doing, to be very honest, is we've done things manually through Excel for the past, 10, 15 years. I have an excellent assistant that's been with me for over 10 years. And she literally tracks everything. We have spreadsheets for everything. So not something I'd recommend. What I would recommend is Follow Up Boss. We are in the process of transitioning our business into that. And our hope would be that instead of her spending an hour doing a spreadsheet, we could spend 5 minutes plugging in information and it's spitting out what we need. So that's what I would recommend, especially if you don't have anything in place right now. I would definitely tell you Follow Up Boss is the place to be because it manages the team. What I love about it, which Top Producer didn't have, it has a place that I could track all of my agents' leads, their production. What I'm really loving, because I had a meeting last week on Follow Up Boss, is for work-life balance. I feel it's going to change my whole life because one of the biggest challenges I have is clients want a text message all the time. I come out of an appointment, I have 30 text messages and I get anxiety from that. With Follow Up Boss, it can go, I get a business number, it goes into an inbox and my team can monitor it, which is game changing for me. So I'm still learning it, but I think that that's going to literally change my whole business once we get fully integrated with Follow Up Boss. But the long and short is we use spreadsheets right now, but that's not something I'm going to recommend that somebody else does.
Well, I mean, listen, they still work, and it's better than not doing anything at all, right? So
yes,
that's basically it. I got a question for you. What does your day look like? What time does Christina get up? What is your morning? What is your morning routine? What does that look like?
So I go 100% by my calendar. So every day is different. I have been doing much better. I've never really been a morning person, but I would say in the last year that's dramatically changed. So I'm usually, up and going by 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, which is super early for me. May not be early for others, but super early for me. And then, I'm pretty much have things planned, both business and personal, throughout the day, till probably about sometimes 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. But I do balance my children's activities and needs with my work schedule. So a lot of times I will try not to schedule anything past 3 o'clock, because I know that's when activities begin. If I schedule something, I am double, triple checking the personal calendar and making sure that it doesn't conflict in any way. But I've been very good. My children play basketball, so we're at games, I would say multiple times in a week. So I'm at pretty much, I'd say 95% of their games, where 10 years ago, that would not necessarily have been the situation.
Cool. Sounds good. Does anyone have any questions for Christina? We got about, 8, 9 minutes left. If you do, either just raise your hand or unmute yourself.
I have a quick question.
Hey, Sal.
Hey, how are you? So I have a quick question, Christina. What is do your agents rely on you guys for leads, and if so, what type of lead generation and what type of leads are you providing for them?
Sure. Anybody on my team. So I have my team and then we have our office. So in the office, agents are independent. They do their own thing. They get their own leads. But on my team, yes, we provide leads for the team members. We go in with the theory that when someone's starting, we use 3 as an example. So for every 3 leads, we should be giving them 2. They should be generating 1. The goal is after the first year of being with the team, it should be the other way around, where they're generating 2 and we're giving them 1. Not that we're giving them less, it's just that they have now increased how to generate leads themselves in that year. So that's kind of what the goal is. We do not subscribe to a service. I don't believe in Zillow or any of that stuff. If we need additional leads, if we do slow down, I have in the past subscribed to realtor.com. to get some leads from there, because a few years ago they switched their lead generation where you don't really get your own leads anymore. So I do, if we are slow, sometimes subscribe to realtor.com, but generally speaking, we're getting leads. And what I noticed from EXP is, since I changed companies, we get a ton of leads from our website, which we never had at Keller Williams. So the website, our signs, we also have on our signs something called text to sell riders. I don't know if you guys have used that in the past, but we've used it for years and it works like a charm. We get a ton of leads from that. Obviously open houses on the internet, we do. And again, we have to keep changing it because they keep picking up on it. But on Zillow, on realtor.com, on those different websites, we post in the description our contact information, which we're not supposed to do, but there's ways around it. So we get calls on that too. So lots of different ways, mostly I would say organic, not targeted. I would like to learn as we kind of get settled in and get things set up, how to do like the Facebook ads, the Google ads, but at this moment, we don't do any of that stuff.
So you mentioned that you're getting like organic leads from your website. So the website you're talking about is what you're getting through EXP, which is KV Core, correct?
Correct. But it's also hooked up with Google. So like we also have, I should have mentioned, we also have a lot of reviews on Google. Google has been my best friend in the past few years. Our reviews has generated a ton of business as well. So if you don't focus on reviews, that is the one thing I will tell you. Listings, buyers, I have gotten so much business off of reviews. Realtor.com for buyers, basically Google for sellers, Zillow a little bit, but generally speaking, I'd say realtor.com and Google and Facebook have been probably my biggest in terms of lead generators. And it costs nothing.
When are you asking for the reviews? Is it like right before your agents close the deal, or are you asking for the reviews after the deal's already closed?
Both. So we try to ask for it before, but a lot of times we'll ask for it just after, but it'll be a conversation. So I will usually have a conversation with my clients about the reviews kind of throughout, especially those that have found me through reviews. So
what does that conversation sound like? Take us through it.
Pretty much, I do explain how important it is to have 5-star reviews online, because I don't want anything less than 5 stars. So I explain how important it is to have 5-star reviews, how it helps grows our business. Now, of course, I'm only talking to clients that are very happy. And pretty much what happens, I said, do you mind that if I send you, a link to fill out a review, you can copy and paste it. If you'd be so kind to copy and paste it to a few different sites, I'd really appreciate it. If not, one site is fine. And I usually put the one I want that I need like the most reviews on, like whatever I need the most on at the very top when I send them the email. So it's really just a very general conversation. And these are with people that are very happy with our service. But I hit them immediately, like when we're either about to close, or even sometimes a week before closing. It depends on how the conversations go. You don't want to wait till like a month or two. And when you have a personal conversation, there's a better chance they're going to do the review versus just sending them an email. Because what I found is when I just was doing a generic, like, here, let me send them an email, they weren't filling it out. But if I had a conversation and they were expecting the email, they were 100% filling it out.
That's awesome. No, I think it's really huge. I totally agree that Google is the way to go. I think people need to kind of start shifting away, from kind of being that prisoner on Zillow that, owns all your information and then all your reviews are there. And you definitely have to start shifting them to, over to Google, which everybody will find. We got about 2-3 minutes left. If anyone has a question, just raise your hand. I'll call on you. But what I wanted to ask you real quick, I believe your team did about almost 100 units, right? So 100 closings or so, and about 40 million in volume. Yes. So the question for you right now is what does the future look like for the Duncan Home team over the next 2-3 years or 5 years? What are you focused on right now? Like, what are your priorities, and what does that future look like?
Sure. Well, every year we want to grow. I know we're not growing at the rate that I've seen other, top teams at EXP, but my goal would be in a couple of years to really get to that. Right now, my goal, I'd say in the next 12 months, because this was a big transition for us on top of kind of losing our CRM. So our goal over the next 12 months is really just to kind of settle, to kind of get our grounding. But we're still going to grow. I mean, our goal this year is 50 million. We're already exceeding that. Based on how we're tracking right now. So, I mean, I think we'll easily meet that goal, which is great. But I really wanted to kind of be conservative this year because I know there's a lot of grounding that we need to get into place in order to really grow to the next level. So I'm trying to work on getting my team settled. Also, we have a physical office in Somerset. So I'm working on kind of getting that established and set up so that we can also kind of dual run the team and also work on growing the office as well. So those are kind of our big goals. I don't have them broken down specifically, but we really want to grow in the next 2 to 3 years. And we're kind of just setting up the groundwork to do that.
That's awesome. Well, first I want to say thank you so much for being our guest today. It was definitely a lot of, great takeaways, and it was nice, learning about you and your team and what you guys are doing. So I appreciate you being here with us today. I just wanted to remind everyone that's here that we are here every Tuesday at 11 a.m. If you guys enjoy what you're hearing, we appreciate you guys coming back each week. Invite a friend, bring somebody back next week. Christian, Chris Walsh, Sal, Deanna, Chris, anybody have anything for Christina before we sign off?
No, thanks for coming, and it was good information. Wish you the best.
Yeah,
of
this
luck
was great.
for the rest of the year.
Thank you so much, Christina. I appreciate your approach very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Super helpful.
Awesome.
Everybody
guys.
Have a great day,
have an
everybody.
awesome, productive day. Talk to you guys.
Happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there.
Oh, thank you.
Happy
That's awesome.
Mother's
Thank
Day.
Thanks, Christian. Thank you.
Thank
you.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.